producers,
engineers,
singers,
songwriters,
musicians,
tour and live production crew,
and thousands more of us.
Without us, the music stops.
We need your help
to keep the music playing.
Support those impacted today at MusiCares.org.
COVID-19 has devastated our music community, leaving thousands of music creators and professionals without work and an uncertain future. But we have the power to help. The Recording Academy and its affiliated charitable foundation, MusiCares, have established the COVID-19 Relief Fund to help our peers in the music community affected by the coronavirus pandemic. To date, MusiCares has vetted and approved over 14,000 clients and has provided funding of $14 million to the music community at large. All genres of music have benefited from these efforts, from folk to R&B. Clients from each state in the U.S., including U.S. territory Puerto Rico, received funding from the MusiCares COVID-19 Relief Fund. Professions served range from singer-songwriters to stagehands and tour bus drivers. Funding campaigns have been well received and included CMT's Kenny Rogers, Levi Strauss 501 Livestream, Black Pumas, Alicia Keys, and Red Light Music Festival Uncanceled, among others.
The music community is so lucky to have people who give a damn about working musicians, especially in a world where, even in normal times, we're quite often overlooked and left behind.
At the end of the fiscal year, MusiCares will have provided over $23 million in aid to over 26,000 individuals nationwide.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Music Business and Family, a conversation on fatherhood and music. My name is Jeriel Johnson. I am the Executive Director of the Recording Academy, Washington, D.C. chapter, and also a dad myself. And so last year, the D.C. chapter hosted a program on the music business and family, and it was a great conversation. Since then, we've been trying to figure out how to continue that conversation. And with the world upside down, our industry deeply impacted by the pandemic, virtual learning, and so many other things going on in the world, we thought, what better time to revisit the conversation? Only this time we've partnered with the New York, Philly, Chicago chapters on this conversation. So I want to say a very special thank you to the Chicago chapter Executive Director, Sarah Jansen, the New York chapter ED, Nick Cucci, and the Philly chapter Executive Director, Mark Schultz, as well as their teams. And it's just been such a group effort to pull tonight's event together, and we're really excited about it. We have an incredible slate of panelists who are really going to share some of their insights and how they're navigating their lives as music industry professionals, partners, and parents. With that, I'd also like to talk a little bit about our partner tonight, who is MusiCares. MusiCares is the charity of the Recording Academy that provides confidential financial assistance and supportive services to the professional music community. From the singer-songwriter to the promoter or manager to crew and production, individuals do not have to be affiliated with the Recording Academy to qualify. One must be able to substantiate that they've been working for 5 years in the music industry. MusiCares steps in to provide support when a music person hits a bump in the road. They assist with basic living needs, medical and dental bills, support around addiction and recovery, as well as mental health needs. MusiCares is proud to collaborate with the Recording Academy and promulgate ongoing conversations around mental health. Panels such as this one tonight focus on the rigors of working in the industry, and as we know, no one is immune from the challenges of life on and off the road, job security, managing relationships, especially now given the industry has been upended by COVID. MusiCares is here to provide resources and support, including a COVID relief fund. So for more information, please visit musicares.org. We'd also want to say a very special thank you to Jen Leff, who's one of the senior directors at MusiCares. With that, it's a pleasure to introduce our moderator for tonight's event. Please welcome Andrew Barber. Hey, what's up, Andrew?
Thank you, Jeriel. Appreciate the intro there. Very job well done. Happy to be here tonight. As a father, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I have two daughters, 4 and 6, and those are all ages are important, but this is a very important time for them as developing children. And obviously, my life has changed as everyone's has changed. So this is a very interesting time, and I'm excited to speak with my peers tonight, as well as professionals about what we have going on here in the pandemic and how everybody's dealing with this right now. We're all having different issues, but we're navigating and we're getting through best as we can. So I want to first thank MusiCares as well as the Recording Academy for putting this event on. And I'm going to start by bringing on some of our panelists and introducing them one by one. So to kick it off, I'd like to introduce our first panelist this evening, Dr. James Ballard, a clinical psychologist. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Andrew. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Next up, I'd like to bring on Adam Blackstone, who is the co-owner and founder of BASSic Black Entertainment.
How you doing, Andrew? Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here representing the dads.
Yes, pleasure to have you. And then next up, we have G Herbo, known G for a long time, from Chicago as well, who is a dad and also a rapper and mental health advocate.
Andrew, what's up, man? What's going on, my brother?
How you doing, bro? Good.
Hello, everybody, man. Appreciate y'all for having me.
After that, we have Billy Mann, who is a songwriter and record producer.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And finally, we have DMV rapper and record producer and great live performer, Oddisee.
How's it going, Andrew? Thank you for having me. Peace to everybody else as well.
Yeah, so let's get right to it. Thank you, everybody, for being on tonight. I'm excited about the conversations that we're going to have, surrounding fatherhood and this crazy time in the music business. So I just want to kick it off and kind of go around the room and talk about the dynamics of everybody's family, single dad, married, how many kids you have, etc. As I said in the beginning, I have two daughters who are 4 and 6, and I'm married. Let's start with James.
So I am a divorcee and I have 3 children. One of them is 19. My youngest is a 19-year-old son. And I have a 24-year-old son and a daughter who's 25, soon to be 26. And we're thick as thieves, really tight.
Adam?
Yes, I have a 5-year-old, my namesake, Adam Blackstone Jr., probably my best friend. I don't know if any of y'all have ever been best friends with a toddler. It's awesome. And I have a Corona baby. My daughter is 7 weeks old. Adia Gladys Blackstone. Me and my wife are blessed to have those 2 children who have instantly changed our lives. So it's been a blessing.
That's what's up, man.
Thank you.
I'm G Herbo. I'm a father of 1. My son, your son, man. I too am best friends with a toddler, man. I know what you're talking about over there, Adam, man. I'm currently in a relationship, me and my girl, and I plan on starting, expanding my family even more. But being a father, man, it's a blessing, man. I love fatherhood. I enjoy fatherhood. It challenged me to be better, and just grow as a man every day for the sake of my son. So, of course, all y'all can contest to that.
Thanks. I'll kick it to Oddisee next.
I'm married. My wife and I have our daughter, Zaina. She's 3 years old currently. An amazing time. I'm happy she's at an age where hopefully she won't remember anything that's going on right now. And I'm on my first. Lord willing, when our family grows, these will all be things behind us in the past. We'll tell them the stories of what happened these days.
Billy, let's finish it off with you.
I'm happily married for almost 20 years. I have 4 kids. They start at 18, 17, 13, and 6. In the music business, everybody says 1 wife, and I'm like, yeah, one wife. So 2 of my kids, both of my boys are on the autism spectrum. So I'm a dad, but I'm a special needs dad. And I only point that out because when my oldest son was first diagnosed, a lot of people in the music industry basically advised me not to talk about it because they thought it could affect my work or my career. And it took me a minute to turn the corner on that. But it's a superpower for me now in music and as a husband and a dad.
Definitely. I mean, and I think, just being honest is so important because we're all facing challenges right now. So, I think that's a great thing. But, while we talk about challenges, I kind of just want to throw it to the room and feel free for anybody to jump in because we all have children who are different ages. It kind of runs the gamut of ages here. But I just want to know what is everybody's biggest challenge been at this time?
I'd start it off. I think my biggest challenge, or at least one of my biggest challenges, is creating a balance between the two with, me being an artist and a point of my career where I still have much work to do. The only expanding for me is I think balancing that and still being able to make sure I'm spending enough time with my son, being able to be a father on the road and actually, in person, physically. That's my biggest challenge. I think just creating that system where I make sure I'm still having my son and actually, not putting him in certain other environments, because I do create the kind of work environment where I can have my son with me. But now that we're in the middle of a pandemic, I don't want to have my son around because it's COVID, or have him around so many different people. So one of my main challenges, at least right now, is just creating a balance where I'm able to fly out, stay home, spend more time with my son, and still, be able to capitalize in these times, man.
Yeah. Do you think that it has changed, or have you been able to spend more time with him because of COVID, or are you still running around like crazy?
I think it's changed because I don't really want to fly as much as I used to with my son, put him on so many planes a month, and he lives in Atlanta, I live in LA, so it's hard,
Yeah. Any other challenges that you guys are facing?
Sure, go for it, bro.
For me, the balance has been I'm on a whole new schedule now, man. I'm waking up and being dad until bedtime, and then I'll probably go down to the studio and work from 9 to 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? 9 p.m. to 3, just so that I could get that daytime vibe in, or that he can let me work. You know what I'm saying? Because the kids kind of run it when you got them. So
if you're up till 3, he's gonna wake you up at 6 too, probably. So you're only getting minimal sleep at this time.
7, for sure. I was just saying 7:30, 4 hours, and then I got a newborn, so she's eating every 2 hours on mommy. So it's that's been the balance for me, is actually being at home and trying to maintain a sense of having a work environment, while being a parent.
I just wanted to chime in one thing, which is, in listening to that, it's just leave the two gentlemen that just spoke. It's even though it's COVID, there's this belief that suddenly the music industry stopped being competitive and we still don't need to go out there and work, when there are 44,000 new tracks being released every day on digital platforms that we have to compete with. So on the one hand, you're at home. And on the other hand, if you're an active artist in the game, or a producer, or anybody, there's no stopping. So, and for me, to Adam's point, it's this is the longest I've been home, not traveling or touring, since I was probably a teenager in Philly. And I think the adjustment on the one hand is you have this access to your family, which I'm loving. And on the other hand, there's the pressure that you still have to compete. Everybody's still trying to get their records out there. Everybody's trying to get mixes or productions or work. And if you're not, and especially if you're a touring musician, there's no touring. So you got to do double time to keep yourself not just relevant, but in the mix with everybody. I think that's an extra layer of pressure that I don't know about the rest of the dads on here, but I think it's kind of hard to talk about, because it's not like the bills suddenly changed or the pressure suddenly changed.
Sure, it's more work and less time. I think we can all agree that I don't think anyone could have foresaw that we would have more work to do during this time, and absolutely for myself, less time to do it. Where I would average 8 hours a day in the studio, minimum 5 days a week, it's about 4, and picking up and sharing responsibilities with my wife with daycare being closed and having to entertain and nurture and take care of our daughter, we've had to pick up that responsibility and divide that time to make sure that we can still have a resemblance of humanity in ourselves as well. You know, and it took a couple of months to find that balance where my wife decided to start working out again in the backyard. And in order for her to do that, I got to wake my daughter up and stay 2 hours more in the house until she's ready and come home earlier as a result. And you just make a way, you find a way to do it. You know, you definitely have more on your plate now and a whole lot less time to do it.
Right. And James, how do you think this type of like crazy work schedule and, you know, demanding more, how is this weighing down on artists? Like, how do you see this from like a mental health aspect?
So, I mean, it's just really interesting to hear all of the, you know, the comments, the real scenarios, the real things that people are dealing with, like parents having to, not just artists, right? Because artists are people, creative people are people first. So you may have a son or a daughter in special needs, hats off and love. It's challenging. They may be in an educational situation. They may have to go to school. You may have to sit with them at home. And I'm not even talking about the fact that you're used to going on the road and playing and singing and performing. I mean, you now have to sit in the house and work with your mate or partner and help the person to find the proper link. I mean, we all had great conversations prior to this about the challenges we have, you know, with regard to even connecting to this call. But so in order to keep our children connected to their education, and to keep them, if it's possible, to have connected with any friends and have them allow them to have social connections with other people, all that stuff is really challenging. That's the energy we send to the children. COVID is very interesting in that the kinds of things that help us to feel human and help us to feel good about ourselves and worthy are challenged by it. We can't touch other people. We can't spend time, or you have to be distanced from other people. You can't move about the way you would want to move. The social determinants, the kinds of things that help us to feel good, like making money on your own, that's significantly challenged. You're creative. You have to maybe not perform because you can't, everything was shut down at one point. You have to figure out how to use technology to try to make money. If you're not making money by performing or through some other technological aspect, then you're not getting the worth of creating for yourself and your family in that regard. If you're being trained in some capacity, like some kind of educational experience, and you have to disconnect from that, you go through those changes. I mean, we're all people first. So, I mean, and my thing that I've experienced is I've just gotten a lot of phone calls. I've had a lot of referrals, and I've got a lot of calls from people who were either dealing with some kind of psychological reality that was tough for them, and some with diagnoses historically, but some without, and some like prior to COVID, but then also some who have had those experiences bubble up during COVID. So either depression in one direction or anxiety in the other direction, or a combination of the two, all of that increasing. So it's tough, and that's outside of being a parent.
Right. I got to ask, how's everybody keeping their fans engaged, especially Oddisee and Herb, who are, you know, constantly on the road interacting with fans? How hard has that been, you know, now balancing staying at home and being a father on top of all that?
I mean, I think we have social media to thank for making it far easier to keep audiences engaged, and being transparent has been really, really helpful in showing day-to-day life just as much as I would show tour footage when I'm on the road. Has been received well and appreciated by fans. And I think we all feel that we are experiencing something at the same time for the first time in our history, that no matter what class, race, ethnicity, creed, we're all going through the same thing at the same time. And everyone's curious how everyone else is dealing with it. And it's been fortunate that I've been able to channel that into my music and release that music, and it to be some sort of a coping mechanism for my supporters, and for us to be able to interact through social media platforms to express our thoughts about what we think about the world, as well as opinions on music. So it's just been more so focusing on communicating with people through social media and being less one-sided, listening more, as well as, you know, sending out information, but also receiving it and being there to respond.
Yeah, no, I agree. He just, man, you just hit it right on the head. It's, you know, just staying active as much as possible. Is not really thinking too much about it, because like you said, these special times and everybody going through pretty much similar, you know what I'm saying, similar situations when it comes to having to be at home and forced to having to be creative as far as, you know, how you go, not even just staying engaged with your fans and your music, but just mentally, just keeping a peace of mind. And how are you on the day-to-day? Like, how are you mentally? You know what I'm saying? Not just what it has to do with your music and everything. So it's something as small as going live, just Instagram live in the house. Your fans appreciate that. They want to see you. They want to, you know what I'm saying? They really, a lot of your fans grow with you. So they want to know, how are you on a mental standpoint, let alone with your music? Like, all right, it's cool. The fans will love to know you working and seeing that you're working. So staying as transparent as you can with them on that field, but also just doing anything as far as engagement, just posting more pictures of you at home. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of that. I noticed with me being home and just posting more pictures, my engagement on Instagram and like all of my interactions and stuff shot through the roof. I haven't been touring and none of that. Like, it's even higher than it was when I was actually touring, because people are at home too. They doing the exact same thing that you're doing. So a lot of times people are in school or, you know, just trying to figure themselves out in life. They're not always in the mode of going to see your Insta stories when you having fun and enjoying your life and touring and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And with these times being so significant, people going through a lot of the same things, it's like, it's a connection there. You know, I think your fans feel more of a connection to you with, you know what I'm saying, being transparent and going through these times, because we all suffer from a pandemic, you know what I'm saying? So it's several things like that, you know, just staying engaged and just letting them know that we human too. We going through a lot of the same stuff. Like I was saying, like, one of my biggest challenges, it don't have to do with touring, no money or anything, is being able to balance seeing my son as much as I could when I was able to fly, and it was safe for him to get on 3-4 planes a month. You know what I'm saying? It's not really the same thing now, you know, so just being able to connect with your fans on that kind of level, you know, because I'm sure they see probably either less or more engagement, less time I may be spending with my son versus on the road. I used to have my son on the road with me at shows, you know what I'm saying? So
I remember seeing him at Lollapalooza when he was a baby.
Exactly. But it's different now, so you can't really, I don't want to have them in different environments around people on planes where, you know what I'm saying, it's just too difficult right now. You know? Right.
So, I mean, what's hitting me is a thought that I've been, it's a thought that I've had for a little bit with working with folks, which is that artists, again, as people, are really taking time, they're having to really being forced to look at themselves as people. Connecting with family members, whether they're sons or parents, because we're in a time where things have slowed down. You know, people, I mean, I know the folks on this panel are pushing to continue to work, and everybody's doing what they can. But there was a time when COVID put the brakes on for everyone. And I noted with the folks that I've been working with that there was a lot of exhaling, and time was taken to say, you know, to themselves, am I really doing what I feel like I'm here to do? You know, is what I'm doing having the impact on other people that I wanted to have? Prior to, there was that rat race piece. There was, you know, every day I'm just trying to make the money I can. I'm hustling, I'm keeping it moving. But then when COVID shut these things down, just a constant voice that I've heard from folks that I've worked with is, again, that they're just rethinking this whole thing and valuing more so real connections. And personally, what I've also seen professionally, what I've also seen is that what's coming out of that now, I think, is a more earnest and real energy behind the creativity that's occurring now. And some individuals have put up the drumsticks and decided not to play anymore because they they reconnected with family members, and now they're just going to do other things. They don't want to do that. It wasn't actually, allowing them to have the career and create what they wanted to create financially. But again, folks are just revisiting themselves, their lives, what they do, why they do it, and reconnecting in a real sense with people around them.
You just made a great point right there, Dr. Ballard. I was just about to say, like, when you was talking about basically people having to connect more or valuing more of a physical connection with people more so, because a lot of outside of just being artists are just, people who actually on a day-to-day have to go out and hustle and work for a living, you know what I'm saying, who live their lives more so outside of home than inside, where, they just use their home as kind of like a temple, just to go home, rest, get together, and then right back out, you know what I'm saying, facing the world and what the world has to offer. A lot of people are like connecting with their family, like understanding a lot more about themselves. With being an artist, it's a lot of people who've been on the road, on the go for like 4 years straight, non-stop, where they just at home for periods at a time. Now they forced to spend time with their family, where they getting to know their kids more, getting to know their spouses more, getting to know themselves a lot more, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think these times are kind of forcing people to not make excuses, because you have to live in the moment. We used to make excuses about not spending time or not doing this because we have to do this, this, and this. Now you're forced to live in these moments, so you don't really have those excuses, you know what I'm saying, to bury yourself. Right. You gotta actually learn more about yourself, learn more about your family, you know what I'm saying? It's a different time, it's a different connection. So you just struck a light bulb in my head when you started, you know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say the same
I was
thing.
thinking the same thing.
And G, sometimes getting to know yourself is scary as hell.
Yeah, scary is scary.
You know what I'm saying? Because like, G and Doc, you put it on the head. Sometimes home has just been, a pass through. You know what I'm saying? As far as the actual structure of home, I'm not saying your family is a pass through. I think all of us on here love our families and our children, but talking about the walls of your house, you know what I'm saying? Is like a pass through, been on the road. So that COVID thing forced us to sit our tails down and really get to know yourself and your spouse and your children. And sometimes that's scary.
Exactly.
It's scary to get.
And a lot of times, man, having that environment, like your spouse or your wife, your mother, they will understand, like, all right, he has to go work. So they know what you up against. They
balance.
know you feel this in these meetings, you doing everything to, you know what I'm saying, create the structure of what you have in your household. So you creating that balance where it's like, all right, Friday always date night. I got to spend this Sunday with my kids. You creating that balance. And it's like people, they hold you to that. And it's like, it's cool. They understand what you're up against. They understand that you have to go work, so they don't mind you being able to spend 2-3 days at home out of the week. But now that you have to spend 7 days at home, it's, you understanding what your wife is like on that Wednesday versus when you was out. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's different now.
Yeah. And then one last thing in the reverse sense, because I've been home the 7 days now, I just got called to go back out, and it made me and wifey like reevaluate, was it worth going out for that 2 days? You know what I'm saying?
I agree. It's a reverse sense. It definitely is a reverse.
Super reverse.
Like a lot of times you don't even want to do what you was doing when you was, you know what I'm saying, out on those 3-4 days. I would have never questioned. It's not even worth it no more now that you have that already.
I would have never questioned 2 days before. I would have never questioned. I would have been like, yeah, I'm there. It's all good. I got to go to LA for 30 hours. It's cool. But like,
can't do that anymore.
Nah, it's like, I'm like, do I really want to do that? And then I got to ask. That's the other thing.
You had a crazy year, right? You started off your year doing the Super Bowl. I mean, you're flying around everywhere. How has, your role changed now?
Yeah,
And we only have a few minutes left, and Billy, I want to make sure I get to you too. I'm
happy.
We only got a few more minutes left, so we got to wrap it up here soon.
No, I got you. I gotta be honest, man. My 2020 started off amazing. I was blessed to produce the Super Bowl. Then the week before Super Bowl, I did the Grammys. The week after, I did the Oscars. The week after that, I did NBA All-Star. I would do the live entertainment for the NBA. And then Corona happened. I was very naive enough to think like, I'm gonna take 2 weeks off. I probably need it anyway. This is God sitting me down.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's October 28th. So it's like,
I thought it was gonna be only 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was naive enough to think that that thing would pass. And so yeah, I think it's just what G and Doc talked about. Is like, I'm very much reevaluating the work, and if it makes sense for me to travel and put myself, my family in jeopardy for COVID. And asking me the same question February 1st or asking me November 1st, you'll get a completely different answer based off of the times that we've been in, based off of the times I've been able to love and kiss on my kids, and based off of the time I've been able to, really learn about myself and see, am I putting myself in harm's way, or am I just moving without having a mental check because that's just what I was used to doing. You know what I mean? Billy, you was about to say something.
I want to kick it to Billy because I want to talk about his creative process and how, him songwriting and doing all that's been, in this environment.
I mean, look, I think everybody on this call is living a privileged COVID experience compared to most people. So absolutely. I think, while I like on the one hand, I would want to say, okay, let me talk about the creative experience, but my ability to have just the shock absorbers to withstand the bumpiness of this experience that we're all going through is not the same as most people. None of us, frankly, on here, we are all privileged. Bless. So I think what I think most of all is the fact that there are a lot of people. I mean, for us, here's privilege. Privilege is that we love what we do for work. Privilege is when we get home, we are rediscovering our relationships with our wives. We're rediscovering or building our relationships with our kids. But a lot of people that aren't in the position that we're all in, a lot of them, when they're confined to their home, when we're quarantined at home, the reason why they do music or a part of it is because home is so toxic. The idea of being stuck with a door they can't open and a window they can't open those are the people that I think about the most. So what I hope is for the fathers, if they're watching this wherever they are, especially, the creative folks that connect with us as musicians, that they take this time to create as much as they can. Because the one thing about the quarantine that they can't do is they can't quarantine our creativity or our musicality. They can't quarantine chord progressions or lyrics. And I think that at least my position as a dad, and I think having special needs kids, first of all, it's common. So there isn't going to be a person on this panel that isn't connected in some way to somebody, because you're talking about 1 in 5, 1 in 6 kids have some sort of developmental challenge. Yeah. So I think for us, my wife and I are always looking like we need to go to our kids. We can't just expect our kids to come to us and show daddy what you do, or tap dance or sing or get good grades. We're always leaning into our kids as special needs parents because we need to go to them to relate to them. And I actually think that experience has given me an edge during quarantine because I'm naturally leaning into my daughters. Although I think musically, I think I'm thinking differently. I think the artists that I know, they're writing material differently. What they want to sing about or rap about is different. I think our color palette is going to be changed forever from this experience, and touring will come back. But all these people, it's like we're talking probably 30% of the workforce in the music industry is either furloughed or paralyzed or fired or without work. So I just think this is a time where we can talk about reconnecting with our kids, but there's a lot of repair work that's going to have to happen in the next couple years, and that's without us even mentioning the social climate that we're living in. So I feel like if you're a parent, I mean, this is my thought, for all of us on the panel, it doesn't matter if we're making mistakes or trying to manage our way. The only thing is that we're now looking inward in a way that we weren't before. And I think, to the doctor's point, a lot of us are going to leave this chapter, and how we approach ourselves and our careers and our relationships are going to be forever changed. I think for a lot of us, it's going to be for the better. And for a lot of people, they're just going to go buck wild when it's all over. So, but that's my take. I mean, this is an amazing panel. And also, a Captain Obvious statement, Andrew, is it's like, I don't know if we're really good at sharing our feelings about this in a way that we probably should do a lot better job of doing it.
Right. I agree. And before we get out of here, I just want to thank all the panelists, for your time and coming on and being vulnerable and sharing these stories at this time. But before we do get out of here, I do want to kick it back to the doctor to, maybe give us some parting ideas, thoughts, or, just some motivation, going forward, and how we can, continue to push forward.
I mean, I appreciate that. Although, absolutely, we're all experts, of ourselves without question, or at least I believe that's the direction we're heading. That's what we would like to be ideally. We've been talking about coming to know ourselves. And ultimately that is our walk as people. COVID is helping to create an environment where we are digging more deeply and realizing aspects and things. I believe one of the beautiful outgrowths of this also will be that our children, since we're talking about fatherhood, our children will continue to watch us navigate this climate. They're constantly recording. My children are much older, but I still remember 100 years ago when my 25-year-old son was maybe 4 or 5. He was walking behind me, and I'm an old man who used to play basketball back in college years ago, and I did this fake spin around the pole like I was dribbling, sparring the pole, and I turned around and he did the very same thing at 4 or 5, and it just hit me in that moment. He's watching me all the time and learning from me all the time. So we're in a time where they're learning from. Yeah, isn't that something? They're learning how so it's not just about us. They're watching how we're connecting with our partners in our homes. They're watching whether or not we go to work. They're watching when we come home, how we move, how we look, how we sound, even how we smell. They're taking us in completely. They may not ideally have to deal with COVID, but they're going to have to traverse an environment that has barriers. So as we're growing to understand ourselves, the impact that we have on our children will influence our interpretation of self.
Yeah. I would also be remiss if I didn't say raising a Black boy in this climate that we're in the world right now has a whole different spin that has made me super sensitive to the ideology, the ideals of putting things ahead of relationships. You know what I'm saying? I'm in Philly. I'm a Philly dude. They just killed a young man 2 days ago in front of his mother out in West Philly. Her life is forever changed. That could have been my son. He was a mental health young man who struggled with mental health. And the protection that I know, I can't even just say racial and just say Black boys, but I'm just saying the protection that I have over my children now, because people out here are really looking to harm them subconsciously or indirectly because of their own personal experiences. You see my son, you may see something that happened to you in 1976, you know what I'm saying? But that has nothing to do with my Black son. And unfortunately, Me being, you know, a 38-year-old Black man, I've experienced prejudice and racism with something that I actually didn't even do. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm trying to put this in the right words to make it, you know, just not too harsh, but just to say, like, music has taken a back seat as well in my parenting, because I'm actually trying to show him how to move and be safe just in the world. You know what I mean? And so I would be remiss if I didn't say that has been a added pressure for me raising an African-American boy, and just to be mindful if I tell him about George Floyd, be mindful if I tell him about Chadwick, you know what I'm saying? Be mindful if I tell him about Breonna Taylor, be mindful if I tell him, but he at some point he has to know, and that's the struggle that I have, you know, daily have, is like, how do I spoon feed, you know, a toddler without them being just scared of life, you know what I mean? Just to say, hey, be safe. We don't get the same privileges of the people that don't look like you, you know, and you can still be anything you want to be. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, but also we just got to move different. And that, you know, that's just me being real. And I hate to get deep and I'm not trying to be political in that sense, but that's just the real, you know what I mean? Like it's a different.
Super important to discuss that and throw it out there. Would anybody else like to add anything on that?
The only thing I would add is that, in a way, the part that's difficult for anybody is just the idea that this isn't new. What's new is that there are cameras in your phones. What's new is that, you know, social media existed, but this isn't new. I mean, I grew up in Philly, and I went to Kappa, Adam. So I went to school with like a lot of folks that you and I both know. But when we went out, I was the one that was always driving the car. And it wasn't because I was the best driver. It's just because when I drove, we didn't get pulled over. And I like to think that it was because I was such a good driver, but we like joked about it and it wasn't funny. So what's so disheartening is the idea that there isn't a person that I know and that is surprised, at least the people that I grew up with and the people in my life in the Black community, none of them that I am speaking to just listen are saying this is a brand new experience. Mm-hmm. It's just, this is an experience that has been going on, and it's a systemic issue. And the challenge, I think, is making sure that at the same time, and this is an interesting thing because this is a very specific to parenthood for everybody, but as a dad, I'm trying to explain to my kids what they are seeing on the news. Yeah. Even with privilege, my kids have that privilege, but trying to explain that to them. And that pales by comparison, but it's a reflection of that added layer of pressure this year. It's not just the pandemic. But I don't, Adam, I mean, you saying that experience, what to me is so horrifying is that I wish that someone could tell me that this is a new phenomenon, the way that this is happening. And what's disheartening is that there's nothing new about it.
And that's the scary part too, Billy, because that makes me think when my mother 30 years ago was telling me, don't run, if the police pull you over, put your hand 10 and 2. I'm gonna have to tell my son the same thing in 2020. So when he gets to 2038, he got to do what I'm doing now. And I think that's it makes me even get emotional thinking about it. It's like, I think that's the main thing that I think about is like, my grandparent told my dad, and now my mom and dad told me, and I'm telling my son the same thing. And it's not okay. Like, it's not okay that it's not new. You know what I mean?
I think that is also not for a reason. I think educating, especially in these times, I think educating them more from a parent's perspective is more helpful than harmful. I think it'll be more harmful just being naive of these times, or being naive like these things don't exist. Although it is terrifying. It can scare, you know what I'm saying, teaching that to a toddler or to a child, or, you know what I'm saying, preparing them for the harsh realities of what they may be up against if they're with you. But those times are going to exist. It's going to come a time where you're not there to tell them how to behave if they run into, you know what I'm saying, a lot of these problems that are going to, you know, appear in their life, you know what I'm saying? And it's the truth. But I think we have to educate them, you know what I'm saying? And especially with being an artist and having a platform where I feel like I have to do more so myself to kind of make a difference, not only just for my children, but for the people around me that I care about, you know what I'm saying, the people that I want to, you know, make a difference for. It's important to educate ourselves and the people around us that we, you know what I'm saying, love at these times, because I don't believe in coincidence. You know, we living in these times for a reason, so we got to embrace them.
And thank you. I appreciate that insight, Adam. I'm really glad you brought that up and everybody was able to share their thoughts on that. At this point, we do have to wrap up the conversation. So I do want to thank all the panelists for coming on and being a part of this. This was a great discussion. I wish everyone the best of luck going forward in dealing with the pandemic and, you know, continuing to be great fathers to our children out there. So thank you everyone for your time.